This episode is brought to you by Peak, the blockchain for real-world applications and home of DePIN. If you think it's time for Web3 to get real, check out their website at peak.network. That's peaq.network. Hello everyone, Daniel from DePIN Hub over here, and today we're here with Alvaro Gracia from Borderless Capital in our podcast. Borderless Capital, I would say, is one of the biggest VC funds into the DePIN ecosystem. They've been actually enabling founders for many, many years now to actually what we know that's called DePIN. It's very exciting to have you here today on the podcast, Alvaro, and it's a pleasure. I think you're one of my favorite VC people that I know. I don't know that many, but I really like spending time with you, talking about projects and ideas. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Could we get started? Maybe you talk a bit about yourself, about your background, etc.
Sure. So great to be here, Daniel. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. So my background lies in economics. That's kind of the lens that I use to see DePIN and Web3 and everything I do. After studying economics, I joined Deloitte as an auditor, then did a master. And during that master, as the master thesis, I did a research on Bitcoin. It was 2015, so it was pretty novel. I didn't need to go too deep on that one because it was already a very innovative topic, but it made me fall through the rabbit hole. And since then, I had the virus. So did more research on the economic side. For me, it has been mind-boggling to understand such a limited supply asset that is, a breakthrough in economics, an asset with a limited supply that's unique to Bitcoin. And then when I started understanding the technical aspects of it, it's when I felt really in love with something that is the most secure distributed database that there could ever be, how the security of Bitcoin works, how everything is just so well designed from the very beginning that it has been working nonstop since 2009. So that's something that really caught my attention. After that, I started working at Telefonica. So started in the accelerator, which is called Waira. It's a global accelerator in more than 11 countries, I believe. And what I learned there is more about venture capital, which was outside of my background. And after some years in Waira, I jumped to Telefonica Ventures, which is the corporate venture capital of Telefonica. Ended up being the head of US investments, managing a global portfolio of startups and VC funds for the corporate. So that was my journey into VC. And at some point, my telco background and my interest in Bitcoin, blockchain, Web3 came together when, thanks to Borderless, I discovered Helium. And then it was just a love story with DePIN.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think telecom has everything to do with crypto and to DePIN, right? Especially coming from Helium, whatever Helium is doing now with Helium Mobile, with the LoRa, in all the different projects that come into the world. It's been super interesting to see that. Can you maybe give an intro about Borderless Capital for those who don't know who they are?
Sure. So Borderless is a Web3 asset manager. So we are exclusively Web3. And one of the most interesting things about Borderless is the amount of investments that we've done, more than 200 since 2018. We tend to think ourselves as ecosystem builders. So we focus a lot in certain ecosystems where we really like the narrative. One of them for sure is DePIN. So we really like to go deep into those ecosystems and have a lot of conviction. We have also a fund that is more diversified, let's say, because from all the deal flow that we get from these ecosystem funds, we have to get very in depth. Yeah,
it's been really interesting just to see the work that you guys been doing mainly on DePIN. DePIN is the angle that I follow the most, as you know, and you guys have been really enabling a lot of this space to actually happen, right? All the different projects, so many cool things that happen that definitely have a little bit of finger of you guys pushing it forward. So that's very interesting. And thanks for that, for sure. One thing that I like to ask a lot of the founders and people in the space, on your own words, how would you explain DePIN or decentralized physical infrastructure networks, let's say?
Sure. I tend to explain DePIN for muggles as, if a telco could reward you, for example, for setting up an antenna in your home, right? The telco would reward you in shares. With blockchains and with Web3, we can build systems that are way more efficient, and that work better. That is the DePIN model. So actually deploying physical infrastructure using tokens to incentivize and to reward the community. I really think that is something that is an amazing innovation. I think eventually the initial Helium IoT deployment of over 1 million hotspots around the world in the span of like a year, eventually it will make it through the economic history books, because nobody has been able to deploy such a vast infrastructure so geographically distributed in such a small period of time. That's something that, if you think about it from a telco perspective or a centralized perspective, it's impossible to do, right? So that's really the magic of DePIN, that you're able to align the incentives and to coordinate so many people in so different jurisdictions around the world for a common good. For me, that's the secret sauce of DePIN.
Yeah. I think that's why it's quite hard a lot of times to mention DePIN and not mention Helium, right? Because what they managed to do in terms of community building excitement, man, gives me the goosebumps just to remember how exciting was the time in 2021 when we were actually deploying the hotspots, like climbing roofs and doing all those things. And that was just like the genesis of this excitement that it spanned to like over 100 or hundreds of projects already, right? Like whatever happened 3-4 years ago, now it's a new category that, I mean, even in the last 3 years it changed name many times, and it will probably change name again. So that's something that's really exciting to follow.
Totally. I think Helium is one of the most interesting projects, and now that it has finally found product market fit with Helium Mobile and this plan available in the US for $20 nationwide, I think it's a no-brainer right now for any American to jump on board that plan. $20, you have unlimited data, T-Mobile connectivity when there's no Helium network available. I think it's going to spark another great cycle of expansion for the Helium network, and we're seeing that already, right?
Yeah, it's been super exciting.
Because yeah, sadly, IoT has always been a promise that never really takes off. It's not a problem of Helium; it's a problem of the underlying technology. Like there's really low adoption on IoT solutions on the telco centralized aspect or on the distributed aspect with Helium LoRaWAN. But I think time will come, and the thing is that there's many frictions, right, from hardware manufacturing to solution building, all the middleware that is involved. So it will take more time because there's more friction. Helium Mobile, on the other way, is just downloading an eSIM. There's extremely low friction, so that's why I see so much potential on this network.
Yeah, exactly. I think the friction is something that's very important for fast scale, right? I've seen a lot of projects that you don't need to buy an actual physical hardware to start using it. You can see the projects like, I don't know, for example, the Grass, they install like a Chrome plugin, or others that you just put or Silencio, they just put a phone app on your phone. You can see that they can scale quite quick.
There's lower friction, but on the other side, with dedicated hardware, there's higher retention, and sometimes the dedicated hardware is needed, right? So I think it's a trade-off, but it's interesting to see.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you on the IoT side. It's much harder because for the demand side, you actually need usually a lot of time. You need to build the hardware itself, and just that part of building the hardware takes like 2-3 years, right? Slowly, we've seen growth on the IoT side, but yeah, comparing to just install a SIM card on your phone and start using it, it's much faster, right? PIC is a layer 1 blockchain designed to power DePINs. Why do DePINs choose to build on PIC? It's fast, scalable, low cost, offer builders are ready to deploy DePIN SDK, and is multi-chain. So when you build on PIC, you're building for all Web3. PIC is home for the fastest growing DePIN projects, with more than 100,000 vehicles and devices deployed, over a dozen DePINs already building, and the world leading device manufacturers such as Boss partner with them. Think of building a DePIN? PIC has a grant program for DePIN builders. If you're listening to this, remember, you're early. The PIC network will launch in the first half of 2024. Check out PIC's channels for more details and links in the podcast description. Whenever you guys are looking at deploying the capital, what are the biggest challenges for a VC firm or for Borderless, for example, when you wanted to invest in crypto or in DePIN projects?
Well, generally, one of the key aspects is being able to analyze so much deal flow and to analyze such a vast amount of projects that there is in this category. Um, Another key thing is analyzing tokenomics and being able to understand what's the token value accrual mechanism and how the token is an integral part of the project, because some projects have a token that is just governance or with very limited utility. We take a look very deeply into that. And on the other, the most important thing for us is to see a real conviction on the founding team, and also skin in the game. I think those are some of the most challenging aspects to find in these projects. Also, during bull markets, and we will increasingly see this, noise increases exponentially. Uh, Generally, bear markets are great for VC investors because we can take time, do proper due diligence and research. During bull markets, everything has to be more faster and more active, of course, not compromising the quality and our fiduciary duty. So that's those are some of the most interesting challenges, and also taking into account our responsibility, right? I tend to think that our responsibility is to dampen the volatility of these markets, being able to support the projects while the markets are down and no other investors are looking into this space, and also um, trying to as well create that margin of safety when the market is overvalued and there's just too much attention. So one thing comes with the other, and we take a lot of focus on risk management at Borderless, so that's very important.
Yeah, definitely helping a lot. And I mean, I've been building Hotspot for the past 3 years, and then we started basically when the market was picking up for the last cycle, and then we built throughout the bear market. Hopefully, the market is changing. At least it feels like it. I don't want to put the carriage in front of the horses, like we say in Portuguese. But hopefully, we're gonna get to the better times. That things are gonna be a little bit easier and more exciting.
Was thinking that, I mean, right now we are seeing a lot of conditions aligning for a next bull market, right? This is not financial advice. I have to say that, of course, nothing in this talk, right? But we are seeing on the monetary side rates peaking, and there's a lot of market consensus on interest rates peaking, and there's a lot of consensus as well on interest rates going down towards 2024. That's very bullish for risk assets because capital will have to find other ways to increase yield. And crypto is Web3 is one of the most interesting areas as well. Another key part is that the technology and the infrastructure, as we are seeing in this ecosystem, has improved a lot. Even if we go through bear markets, people keep building, teams keep shipping, and now we are seeing, for example, extremely high performance layer ones that are going to be able to accommodate the next uh, hundreds of millions of users into this ecosystem, and that's very promising as well. And then obviously, sadly, there's a lot of geopolitical instability. That's really interesting for something that is, let's say, global and stateless and borderless, like is Web3, right? Not to mention the potential approval of the Bitcoin ETF. So I think everything is aligning, in my opinion, for the coming years to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. The thing, like before, I didn't sleep much, and now I'm sleeping even less. But it's good because I wake up early in the morning, like super excited to see what's happening, what we're building, all the excitement is moving up again. It feels back to a couple years ago when things were like very interesting. You guys are an investor in all over the world, right? Like I think you have U.S., Europe, India, many places. How do you
Yeah,
see?
we're borderless, man.
Exactly. I mean,
I have to
that's
say it
that's
again.
why that's why the name exactly. How do you understand the regulatory part of crypto in terms of investing? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Right? It's still quite new.
Borderless is a registered investment advisor with the SEC, so we take compliance and we take regulation very seriously. Right now, we always have to operate in some kind of grayscale in the sense of regulation wise, because there's not a lot of regulatory certainty. But what we take a look is obviously try to stay away from anything that could be deemed as a security, and try to look closer at projects that have fair launches and that are as similar as possible to Bitcoin, which is clearly not a security, right? So what we take a look is try to prioritize projects that have a launch where most of the tokens are generated by hardware or by community participation. That's generally very positive in terms of regulation. And then I hope that we will see some progress in the next years in the regulation, because I think it's critical for the US and for almost every jurisdiction to accommodate this technology, to be able to manage the positive and the not so positive aspects of this. But this is a Pandora's box, right? When you open this kind of innovation, there's no way of closing it. So the best way is just to have it on shore, to have it as best regulated as possible, as to be able to attract innovation and to be able to accrue such an important industry that is going to provide many jobs, a lot of innovation, a lot of capital efficiency, and through DePIN, a lot of infrastructure, real services, phone plans for $20, and many other very interesting things that are impossible without Web3 technology. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think the US sometimes is like very fast, like very forward in terms of enabling technology, sometimes very backwards, right? That up to the point that sometimes some entrepreneurs wanted to leave the US to go to Europe or other countries where it's a little bit easier to interact with the crypto and the SEC and everything like that.
I think it's in the best interest of the US, honestly, not only because through stable coins they are able to export the US dollar and to reach new markets with, and positioning better the dollar as it is already one of the key crypto reserve assets, a la par with Bitcoin. In terms of volume, stable coins are even higher than Bitcoin. So I think they should closely look at that, crypto is an ally to expanding the value of the US dollar abroad. I think
Yeah.
that's a really powerful value proposition, I think, for government and regulators.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And also fair regulation, right? I think uh, crypto being unregulated opens too many doors to unknown features. So if you are actually a serious company, not like a DJ in person trying to like get some meme coins, you're trying to build a real company, real assets, bring value. And if you're operating in a gray zone, it gets quite complicated. So if you actually know how to know the taxes that you need to pay and know how to play the game, then you can just play safe and focus on actually bringing value and building cool things, right? I think I really hope that we're going to move more towards that angle than being like a DJ.
Totally. And I hope that, DePIN also opens up the mindset of regulators and the government, and they are finally able to see what's the real value proposition of this technology, right? So I think DePIN has a big role to play as an industry in driving better regulation for the ecosystem.
On similar topic, if there was a company, a startup that come to you asking for advice, they wanted to deploy, they have an idea for a new project. What kind of advice would you give to startup founders that they're trying to build a DePIN project in the crypto market?
I'll say the three that come on top of my mind. First, simplicity is always better than overcomplicating things. And that happens at the token economics layer, at the technology layer. Everything that you can simplify. In Tesla, for example, they say the best piece is no piece, right? And I think in any kind of technology that's applicable. Reduce complexity always helps. The other key part would be find a proper ecosystem in terms of a high performance layer one that is going to support, that is well performing, that is going to attract capital, because that will be the dry powder that that will be used to deploy that DePIN. So being able to partner with a strong ecosystem or a highly specialized one is also very important. And yeah, also use the available technology that is out there.
Yeah.
It's not try to reinvent the wheel, because the ecosystem right now, it's well developed. We have great tools for many aspects as the blockchain based layers, but also a lot of infrastructure from wallets, a lot of open source code that can be reused. And I think huge to leverage. And the last, but probably also the most important, is focus on the demand side, right? You have to be able to create something that is useful for the people. So if you focus on the demand side, which would be similar to for a company saying focus on the product, right? So for a DP network, they have to focus on the demand side, on creating something really useful. I think there's many projects that are doing this very well, and we're gonna see more. Yeah,
Yeah, that's super exciting. Yeah, I agree 100% with you. Whenever someone asks me about new DePIN projects, I always look about the demand side. Doesn't matter if you have the best solution for something that it's kind of building a product that nobody wants to buy, right? So you can have the best equipment, but if nobody's actually using or requesting that, there's no even point of building it. I think that's quite important. Not necessarily only on crypto, but for any startup, I'd say, right? Um,
totally.
what are like you pay attention much more than me and more than many people in the actual general market of the crypto or a global market for deeping projects or not even necessarily deeping. What are the things that you're seeing in terms of current global trends into investment, and then could touch a little bit of deeping as well?
In general, what I'm surprised is that in this cycle, what we are seeing is a lot of traction on the DePIN narrative. Back in the time, very few people used to know Helium. The term DePIN was coined, what, like, yeah, almost 8 months ago, something like that. So we are very early. Uh, but nonetheless, I'm seeing more mainstream media, more generalistic crypto media talking about DePIN, more investors talking about DePIN. So it's great to see that the traction that this ecosystem is being able to accrue. So that's very encouraging to see. One of the things I really like about DePIN is how how it's able to bring value to Web3. If you think about it, DeFi is really interesting, but at the end, if we're critical about it, it's just crypto money exchanging for
Yeah.
crypto money, right? So it's very intrinsic. DePIN makes make is able to extend above the blockchain borders, right? To bring value from outside. And I think the potential for that is immense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one thing that I like about DePIN projects is that most of those projects bring value. Just even if you exclude crypto, they're still useful. They're bringing like real life value. And then of course, the way that you can hyperscale and hope like and grow this project super fast is through the incentives with tokens, right? Then actually, the DePIN is basically the best thing you can have. And also, it's something that you can tell your mom, and she probably will understand. I think if you try to talk to a mom about DeFi lending, she probably won't have the same like fun time and trying to understand what you're talking about, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's something that I think we've been talking for years already about DePIN, and it does make sense. I think it's just a matter of time that more and more people are going to know about it, and it's been very interesting, even in the last 3 months, I guess, to see how things have been picking up, right? Um,
Really happening. Yeah.
Is there anything that was very surprising for you in the last like let's say 2 years in that learning experience in getting to DePIN or crypto in general?
So one of the most interesting learnings for me of this bear market, and I've been through some already, but in this one I've seen it through the lenses of being close to all these projects, and I'm more and more convinced about the need for treasury management, active treasury management. um, I mean, projects have to be aware that DePIN acts as a flywheel. um, that's great. Price goes up, there's more incentives for people to deploy your hardware, that brings more attention, more uses, more fundamental value, and then that comes back to price going up. The problem is that through a bear market, all of that can go in reverse. You know, it can go into a negative feedback loop, and we've seen that, right? And the only way to be actually able to put the brakes on that negative feedback loop is that the projects have some kind of active treasury management and are able to dampen the price. The responsibility, of course, is also on us, the professional investors, to be able to dampen that volatility in the price, which will help the negative feedback loop to go slower. um, but that's important to consider, I think. Yeah, from a project level, DAO or foundation level, doing some treasury management, I think it's very important to be able to at least sustain at a minimum level through these volatile times.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of founders or a lot of teams they have this in mind, or it's something that you see in just a few of them?
I think it's just human psychology that markets go through phases of greed and fear. I think those operators need to be able to understand those emotions and overcome them. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a complex topic. I think we would get into psychology probably.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say that you can't forget that in the end we are just monkeys, right? Because when you see your price either going up like crazy or going down like crazy, you lose your sense of reality, or and then you just like panic, or the FOMO and the greed and fear it's real, and then you need to really take a step back and like try to calm down and not go on like FOMO mode, right?
Yeah, I think if I have to say some of the best advice are to overcome greed, critical thinking, and to overcome fear, the best thing is conviction. So research, deep research and conviction. And then that helps a lot, I think.
That's a pretty good one. And then as an investor, what are the things that you're most excited about DePIN?
So I'm most excited about dipping with the unknowns, right? With what will happen, with which new projects will arise, where we will see the next big application of dipping. I'm really curious about that. I'm not in the point of predicting, but just learning every day. Actually, one of the most interesting things will be, let's see how mainstream can this technology become, and what's the value that brings to the world. With that, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think when people are using DePIN projects without knowing that they're using DePIN projects, like for example, I just got like the demo device. I just actually received two more on the mail today that I'm gonna give as Christmas gift to my friends.
Great.
Um, or like for example geonet, right? When people are actually using as a demand side, they don't even need to know that's crypto that people are actually deploying that. I think that's when you're actually doing something right.
Yeah, and for example, that demo device that you showed me, it's a great example for that, right? It sends data through the Helium IoT network, and you probably won't notice that. So, actually, as well, the composability of DPINs is another thing that is going to be really interesting, how these DPINs combine and build synergies between them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many projects that we don't even know, right? Yesterday, I was giving a talk for Future Three, which is an incubator from Hashkey in Hong Kong, and there's so many projects coming that they don't have a name, they don't have a title, they don't have a token. They're still figuring it out. So I would say the next few years is going to be super exciting, and I'm really happy to be part of this ecosystem. And there's still a lot to build and a lot to learn, so it's pretty interesting.
Well, I would say you guys are one of the most knowledgeable and real OGs in DePIN. So I think it's great to have advice from you always, Daniel. It's great to see the progress and such a large community that Hotspotty has, and how you guys are evolving. So yeah, really happy about it. And
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're just getting started now with DePIN Hub as well. A new project we launched actually this just a few days ago officially, but it's still in beta because our roadmap is quite massive. But we want to grow with DePIN, right? We want to help the whole ecosystem grow and bring knowledge, bring education, and make this as good as well as we can. With that in mind, do you have any final remarks? That's something that you want to tell maybe to anyone or anything?
so yeah, I would say to everybody, let's keep an eye on this evolving DePIN ecosystem, because there's going to be a lot of surprises, I think, in the coming months and years. Uh, it's really great, an amazing community. It's such a diverse community of people that are not, some of them are not so crypto knowledgeable, some others are very crypto knowledgeable, and it's very diverse. And that's one of the most interesting things, I think, as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alvaro, for your time. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and I hope to have you again when the let's see how next time we're gonna be in the episode how the market's gonna be, right? I think that's quite an interesting new episode that we're gonna have then. Guys, don't forget to check Borderless website and check out all the things that they're doing for the space. And thanks so much, you and your team, for your time and for your money. Let's say, have a great.
Not our money. I have to mention this is obviously made possible by the limited partners that put a trust in us managing their funds, right? So it's funds that we manage who make this possible.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, thanks so much, everyone, and see you in the next episode of the DePIN Hub podcast, deepinhub.io. Cheers.